Are they the owl or the chicken?
You can be whatever you want.
Vince, you can't be sober and decide if you're the owl or the chicken. I'll tell you that.
Well, let me tell you, the Eagles are the chickens. How about that?
We're the chickens with our heads cut off.
Yeah.
So you decide, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be the owl or the chicken.
Hey, you went to Temple. The Owls.
I did.
Good for you.
So that's an owl.
Yeah.
My wife also went to Temple. Does that mean I'm a chicken? Oh, shit.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yeah. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there. There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That is
be the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.
It's episode 47 of Birds vs. Boys, powered by Brandon Sports and brought to you, as always, by Stateside Vodka. We have a ton to talk about. People are being cut from the Eagles. People are not being signed on the Cowboys. And there's some big names out there potentially on the market, trade-wise and free agency-wise in the NFL. Just because the season's over does not mean football is over. The boys went drinking this weekend. Kmess, Aidan, producer Vince, and my wife went out for drinks. No big deal. Had a great time. Aidan, how are you?
Well, this is my first show post Carson Wentz trade, aside from the emergency show that we did. I'm doing as well as I can. I'll never be good again after that. Carson Wentz in an Eagles jersey was like one of my horcruxes, so I'll never have a full soul now. So I'm as good as I can be. Had a fun weekend with you guys.
Until you get another Super Bowl, and then Carson who?
I'll be right back in. Back in. Or he'll win a Super Bowl, and I'll be back in. All right. So before we get into it, some technical notes. We talked about it last week. We have a jam-packed schedule coming up on the calendar in terms of guests. Next week, we have my boss. If I'm his understudy and he's my mentor. Is that how that works?
So you're a mentee?
I don't know. No. Well, okay. Is that a word?
Could be now.
I'm his mentee.
He
is my mentor.
Mm-hmm. You saw it's like a sorority. He's your big, you're his little.
There you go. In the Philadelphia Sports World sorority, he is my big. Jack Fritz, producer of the afternoon show on WIP. We had his co-host John Marks on the show already. He is the founder of Philly Fan Life, runs the High Hopes podcast, recently ran the Counterpoint Eagles podcast. So it'll be good to talk to him. And then for us, definitely follow us on Twitter, because in the offseason, we are strength and conditioning just like the players, baby. We are ramping up our Twitter game. So we've got a lot of things going on. It's at Birds vs. Boys Pod if you're not already following. So with that being said, enough of the technical stuff. Let's get into all of the content that we have tonight. I know you wanted to start with something, a little game here that I don't know too much about. So this could be interesting. I'm interested to see where this is going to go.
You don't really know. I just came up with this a little while ago, and I was like, you know what? We're going to go a little bit around the league here, and we're going to play a little game. So what was Tuesday, Aidan? What happened on Tuesday?
Oh, it was Tuesday, like this week?
Yep. The franchise tag window opened on Tuesday.
Wow.
And it is open until March 9th. So players can now be tagged by the respective team and then try to work out a long-term deal. So we're going to play tag, deal, or walk away. So I'm going to name a couple names, the team that they're on now, and you're going to tell me if that team is going to tag them, if they're going to come to a long-term agreement, or if this player is going to walk away in free agency.
I love that I don't know who the players are going to be, so there's like a 90% chance that I'm going to say something stupid, and I think that's the only way we should go. Like, I think it should just be raw, right out of my brain, with no common sense included.
All right, well, let's start with in Green Bay, running back Aaron Jones. Tag, deal, or walk?
Do we know the annual averages? Like, if he gets the tag, what amount he would get?
Vince, pull it up. Running backs.
Here, I'll say it anyway. I don't think they should tag him. I think that's a
running
lot
back.
against the cap. They just drafted A.J. Dillon. What was the point of drafting a running back with a top 50 pick if you were just going to tag your running back? I'm assuming it'd probably be what, like 10 to 12 million a year?
Has to be at least.
Probably. They also have Jamal Williams. I don't know his contract situation. So I would say walk away.
Okay. So he will be a free agent. I kind of agree with you here. Unless Aaron Rodgers really, really fights hard for him, maybe they can sign him to a deal. But tagging him, especially like you said, with Dylan there now, and in this day and age where you can kind of find a running back almost in any round of the draft, I don't see why you're going to tag him and spend
Which
that
they
money.
did. And then
Exactly.
here I actually have it pulled up for you. So for running back, I was correct. It would be 11 million. I said between 10 and 12, and 11 is smack dab right in between there. So
Look at that brain. Look at that brain.
Look at that.
All right,
so yeah, 11 million for a running back is a lot.
That is for 1 year.
Yes.
No thanks. All right,
And
let's
then
move down. Yep.
One more thing on running backs. Paying them is one thing. Giving them long-term extensions is even more deadly. So if you tag him this year, then you would have to give him a deal after this year or do the same process again, which doesn't make much sense. So you'd be giving him 11 million, which is a lot, and then having to sign him to a long-term deal after that. So it's either deal now or walk away.
Agreed. Completely. All right, let's move down to Tampa Bay, the Super Bowl champions. Wide receiver Chris Godwin. Tag, deal, or walk?
Deal. Long-term deal. I think you can get him at a reasonable price too. Since he was a 4th-round pick, so he's not, his rookie deal wasn't that ridiculous. I'll look up the tag for wide receivers just so we know and we can be accurate with it. It's 16 million. And Vince is telling us he doesn't want to do the tag, and if I'm Tampa Bay, I wouldn't want to do the tag either. He's young, he's in his prime, and he's really good. I think it should definitely be a deal.
Agreed. And he said he wants to stay there. He wants to win another Super Bowl there, but he also wants to get paid. So that's exactly what he said this year. So,
and I may be biased because I grew up in a fucking hour from Penn State, but I think he's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league.
I mean, did you see the way he was catching balls this year, basically with like 3 fingers when he had? Yeah. It was unbelievable.
He's very solid. He's very solid.
He is. Okay, to Baltimore. Yannick Ngakoue. Tag, deal, walk away.
That's an interesting one because do you think he'd do the tag? He just went through all that with the Jaguars where he didn't want to do the tag. He wanted to be on this long-term deal, and that was the whole point of him getting out of there. Now it's a different situation because you're in Baltimore, who's a contender. For them, does it make sense? Or they pretend, well, you know how we feel. Contender versus pretender. So I think it would make sense for him to want to do a long-term deal. I don't think it would make sense for the Ravens to want to do it. I think they want to invest in the offensive side of the ball, especially with wide receiver. I don't know how they plan to do that. That's tough, man. That's really tough.
Imagine letting him walk and he's on his 4th team in 2 years.
Yeah, but you could though. Like they could they did not give up that much to get him. No. Minnesota didn't want to guarantee his money, so they traded him away. I don't know. I'd walk away. I don't think I'd give him a long-term deal. And
we know how Baltimore drafts. So
yeah,
they're going to draft good players.
They're going to find somebody else. I trust them to do it. So it's one of those weird cases. There's a lot of guys like that in the NBA where they're on 4 different teams in 4 years, and you're like, well, why is that? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean they're bad. It's just that they are right on the cusp of being even worth it, but just not quite. I think he's that guy.
Maybe your Eagles will finally land him.
I doubt it. Because, listen, we'll get into them soon. We're still $34 million over. We're still 30 plus million over the cap. And we're not even close. We've cut all these people. We're not even close.
Uh-huh. All right. To the team where we thought Wentz might go, but did not go. Chicago, the Bears. Wide receiver, Allen Robinson. Tag,
why,
deal, or walk?
why wouldn't you give him a long-term deal if you're the Bears? Like what else do you have going for you? If you're the GM who if this doesn't work out soon, you're going to get fired. Why the hell do you care what year 4 of his contract looks like? A long-term deal. It just, and that's part of the reason they almost went after Wentz is like, okay, if he doesn't work out, who cares? Yeah. You won't be there to pick up the ruins. Same with Allen Robinson. Like, you don't have a quarterback, at least have a wide receiver.
Yep. Long-term deal is the first thing that immediately came to my mind here. Sign the guy up long-term. And like you said, if it doesn't work out, if you're the GM, if you're the head coach, you're not going to be there. So who cares?
Who cares? Yep, exactly. Let some other schmuck pick up the ruins.
All right, to one of your favorite teams in the league. No, not the Falcons.
Uh-oh.
The Los Angeles Chargers. Tight end Hunter Henry. He's been banged up a lot. Tag, deal, walk away.
I say tag. I will look up the tight end tag just to see what we're looking at here. So tight end would be $10 million per year. The transition tag is $8,500,000. I don't think that is that insane at this point. And with a young quarterback, having a reliable tight end would be huge. I know they're one of the teams interested in Ertz, but I think Ertz would be like the same kind of deal they do with Goddard where they have 2 tight ends. So I would tag Hunter Henry. I don't know if I want to give him a long-term deal with all the injury history, but at least tag him for the sake of Justin Herbert having a chance here and having some weapons.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a 1-year prove-it deal. Stay healthy, and then we can talk about a long-term deal.
Yeah, and even if he leaves Los Angeles after that point, I think some other team would be willing to if he has a productive season. And we always look at year 2 for young quarterbacks who are good to take that next step. So if he's part of the reason that Herbert takes that next step, I don't see why he wouldn't be a long-term deal worthy.
Agreed. All right, to Detroit. Jared Goff's weapon, Kenny Golladay. Tag, deal, or walk away.
Deal. If they can get him. I don't know how many people want to stay in Detroit. They're going. I think they're going full rebuild too. So I mean, if they can, deal. I don't know if they'll be able to do it though.
Agreed. I wouldn't tag him. Like you said, they're probably in a rebuild. I would try to sign him to a long-term deal, but if he wants outrageous money, then you just let him walk. Yeah, but I would want to have him there for Jared Goff.
You would want to have him here, but at the same time, he's not a competitor. Or you're not him. I'm sorry. The team is not a competitor. Yes. Yeah.
Even though their coach said this week he does not mind being called a meathead.
Fair.
Yeah.
He's really leaning into this like dumb jock. We are 100% going to get a video of him smashing his head into like a player's helmet before the game. 100%.
100%. All right, I got 3 left, and they're all within our division. So let's start with the Giants. Giants.
Rapid fire.
Defensive tackle Leonard Williams.
Deal.
I think after coming over from the Jets, he's played well for them. Agreed. I would deal him as well. Washington football team, Brandon Sheriff.
Long-term deal.
Yep. Agreed. Completely.
He's their best offensive line.
100%. Vince is saying Juju. I don't think the Steelers are going to tag him. I think he's going to walk. And last one. Last but not least. Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott.
Let him walk, man. You're going to commit $40 million to a quarterback for 1 year. Like, it's just not – it's for what? Is with or without him, it's not a Super Bowl like, tell me it's a Super Bowl roster with him. Like, it's just spend the 44
pieces on the defense. It could be.
If you spend $40 million on him, can you get pieces on the defense?
If you draft 8 guys that can start this year.
There you go. Okay. I'll give you that one. On the condition that you draft 8 starter-worthy people on defense in the
and 4 of them
draft,
are Pro Bowlers.
And 4 of them are Pro Bowlers within 1 season. And Trayvon Diggs takes the next step and turns into the next Jalen Ramsey. At
And
that
Jalen
point,
Smith
it would
remembers
be
how to play football.
Jalen Smith remembers how to play football, and CeeDee Lamb becomes the next Megatron. At that point, it would be worth it to pay him $40 million to come back, if and only then. So good luck.
Otherwise, he's going to be thrown to Allen Robinson in Chicago.
I was about to say, if I'm in Chicago, I'm like, fucking heck, yeah, here you go. Take it, because we are not going to be here to clean up the mess.
Well, we'll dive a lot into Dak this offseason and what the Cowboys will do or might not do. But that was a little thrown together tag deal or walk away.
I like that.
All right, a little fun.
I embarrassed myself, I don't think.
No, not at all. I think you knew. You knew what was going on. All right. Make sure you're drinking stateside vodka, everyone, while you're listening to this, of course. But Aidan, where would you like to bring this show next? What station would you like to park this train in?
Let's do the Eagles quick. I don't think it'll take us too long tonight because everyone knows what's going on. As you know, this is our first show post Wentz trade, but also since then, the moves are starting to come out. You kind of have an idea of what this team is going to be doing. So DeSean Jackson announced that he is being cut. I know they plan on to move on from Malik Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey as well. So a lot of big names out the door, and Zach Ertz too. He will eventually be traded or cut, whatever they can do.
I mean, is this rebuild, retool, what?
Absolutely a rebuild or retool. A lot of these moves make sense. Like you weren't going to bring Alshon Jeffrey back. Nope. Alshon Jeffrey is like The Walking Dead. Came out, fantastic. You were captivated. This is exactly what I want. Week by week, you were absolutely captivated, especially in the 2017 year. 2018, you're like, okay, like I'm still bought in, but it used to be better. And by 2019, you're like, all right, someone's just got to put this out of its misery. Like this show has gone on for way too long.
And isn't it still on?
And it is still on. And here we are in 2021 with Alshon still on the roster. So a lot of these moves make sense. Cutting Alshon makes sense. But yes, it is absolutely a full rebuild.
Does Alshon still have football on him?
No.
Somewhere else?
No. Not from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Unless his mouthpiece, Josina Anderson, can drum up that he's in the best shape of his life. I don't see it.
What about Deshaun?
He absolutely has football left in him. He's definitely not retiring. I definitely think he'll keep playing for quite some time. I think he has two. Adam Kaplan said on the Inside the Birds podcast, he says he wants to play for 2 more years. So I think he could go somewhere and still be productive 2 more years. I don't think retirement's quite there yet.
I would love to see him go to Indy, and he just has to go deep 4 or 5 times a game for Wentz.
That'd be hilarious if they teamed up there. Some Philly fans would not be able to handle it. You know where he'd be a good fit is Baltimore. We just talked about them wanting some outside presence at the wide receiver position that's not Hollywood Brown, who's been inconsistent. Mm-hmm. That's a good spot for him. I think Baltimore would be a solid spot.
I could just see him getting frustrated, though, with Lamar. Because Lamar, I don't know.
We know what Lamar Jackson is at this point. Like he's not going to let it loose like that, which is the sole reason for having Deshaun. But I do think it's something that could potentially work. It's worth a shot because
I'd love to see him with Deshaun Watson, wherever Deshaun Watson ends up.
That, or I'll give one more, Tampa Bay. Going back to Tampa with Tom Brady, I think would be. Could you imagine that receiver core? Oh my goodness.
Oh God, no.
I know.
Or throw him down Arizona,
or teaming up with Andy Reid. Imagine opposite of Tyreek Hill, you have DeSean Jackson.
No.
If I was a cornerback, I'd be like, well, this sucks.
Okay.
Like, what else would you do?
You just play 12 yards off the ball. Like, all right.
I'd let them run a comeback route every single play.
We're going to go through the whole league here. Or Seattle with Megatron and Lockett. Wouldn't hate it. No, but yeah, I know there's a lot of teams out there as they come to our brains, but wait till we get our TikTok tonight is places Deshaun Watson will go. So we just named all those places for DeSean Jackson. We haven't even gotten to the Deshaun of choice tonight. The true Deshaun.
But to just recap with the Eagles here for a second and kind of bring this in. Yes, it is a rebuild, a retool, whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. And it's going to be a team that is bad for a while, to pretty much like how Native Americans burnt their crops at the end of every season just so they could regrow the crops. Like that's what a rebuild is in the National Football League. You are burning it to the ground so that you can rebuild. So that's what they'll do. Do I trust this? No, I don't feel the same as I did with Sam Hinkie when we were going through the process with the Sixers. Reason being, I think for a front office, you either cause a rebuild or you run a rebuild. You certainly do not get to do both, but in this situation, you do. And that's why I'm very concerned. Like, rebuilds work because you plan to stock up on draft picks and draft well. Explain to me how that's going to work here.
I don't know.
I don't
Especially
know.
if they're going to sit there at 6 or even possibly move up and take Zach Wilson.
There's a lot of quarterback talk out there.
There really is.
There's a lot of quarterback. Like, enough that I'm like, all right, it's like a smoke, there's fire situation. If this many people are like, yeah, they're thinking about it, they might actually be thinking about it. It's not like this team has been tight-lipped with the amount of Carson Wentz stories that have come out. Like, it's not like it's been a book of secrets down there at NovaCare Complex.
They take a quarterback. What does Jalen Hurts do? Like, how does he react?
Gets traded.
Yeah, right?
You almost have to trade him. It's an admission of failure of that pick if you do take another quarterback. I'm not saying it's the wrong move, but it's just an admission that the Hurts move was the wrong move. I just don't see how you could have both of them another. You just can't keep doing this quarterback controversy thing. You got to have one. You just got to have one. You can't keep doing this every year.
Yep. I agree.
It's like the scene in New Girl. You can't have two wives. You only have one wife. Why? I don't know.
It's just the rules. What is it? If you have more than one quarterback, you have no quarterback.
You have no quarterbacks. Yep. So yeah, I think you'd have to trade him. But here's another name that I'm talking myself into though.
In the draft?
In the draft, yeah. If they don't go quarterback, that he's been popping up on a lot of highlight tapes on social media. We put it out from the Birds vs. Boys one today. This is good because it could go with either of our teams sitting there in the top 10. How do you feel about Kyle Pitts?
I think he was on one of my lists as an honorable mention, top 5 guys I wanted him to come. Yeah, he's a freak.
No drops last year. Did not drop a single pass.
He's a big boy. He's physical. He's fast. He's an athletic freak. And like you just said, he's got unbelievable hands. I mean, what he did for that Florida offense this past year was stupid.
He was fantastic. And I think his best comp would be Darren Waller and pretty much like what they do with Oakland, where he splits out wide a lot. He's not a traditional tight end in any sense, and he really is their best receiver out there in Las Vegas. I'm sorry, I think I said Oakland. But similar with Pitts here, where they'll line him up pretty much anywhere, out wide, in next to your tackle. Not that he's going to be doing a lot of blocking for you. And you like to ISO him against smaller corners out there. So I get people who don't want to take a tight end with a top 10 pick, but I don't really see Kyle Pitts as a tight end, really.
No, he's a weapon.
Yeah, he's just a straight up weapon.
Yep.
We're going that way. It's like becoming positionless football. Like, I know people say, "Oh, don't take Micah Parsons because he's a linebacker," but if he rushes the passer and he can cover tight ends and he can go sideline to sideline, I don't care what position he plays. Like, your football is becoming positionless in a sense. So you just have to just choose choose a weapon is the best way to put it.
And he's the guy, if he's sitting there at 10, where let's say like Surtain's there, the offensive tackle from Northwestern's there. Farley's there. There's two cornerbacks, the 2 top cornerbacks, and the second-rated offensive tackles there, and Pitts. The coaches and the scouts are gonna be like, we really need to rebuild this secondary, and Jerry's gonna be like, that tight end sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, Jerry, we really need to protect our quarterback. That tight end sitting there. That's going to be that Jerry pet cat guy. If he's sitting there, it's going to be hard for Jerry to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. He wants every game to be a Big 12 shootout. Every game is going to be the Big 12 championship for you guys.
Yep.
It's going to be 40-32.
Yep. That's exactly what it's going to be. Can't wait.
Who will be throwing the Kyle Pitts and CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup? I don't know.
Andy
Dalton.
A red rifle.
Well, speaking of the Cowboys, I know you have some points for them too before we get into our TikToks of the night.
Yeah, not a lot. I mean, the base of everything right now, obviously, is Dak Prescott, right? What is going to happen with the quarterback of America's team? There really hasn't been much chatter, much talk out of either camp. The most recent was that they are optimistic about a long-term deal, but not close. Okay, that sounds like the same thing that's been going on since COVID wasn't a thing. So I really don't know what's going to happen. I mean, my heart of heart, my gut of gut, I think they're going to tag him again. I really do. I think they're fearful also of the leg. We've talked about this on a prior episode. How are you going to commit to a long-term deal with a guy when you don't maybe even know if he's going to be ready for this upcoming season? I see Kirk Cousins written all over this. I think they tag him again, and I think by next year he is a free agent. He gets probably the second highest deal because he's not going to get Patrick Mahomes money, and he ends up somewhere like Chicago or the Jets or somewhere like that.
Some big name city like that. Yeah, I can see that. If they sign up to a long-term deal, they have to have some sort of out.
Yep.
Like there's got to be some sort of out after year 2 or 3 with that leg issue. I don't blame them for being hesitant. Like this is just like a situation that sucks. Like,
yep,
for it to come down to this, it's lame. It just sucks.
But then the same people will be like, well, is it the injury or is it Jerry? Because it seemed like he wasn't all bought in on Dak as it is. And then you go to the Dak lovers and they're like, well, look where the offense was. Look how many yards he threw for. But then the Dak haters will say, well, were they winning those games? Were they playing against trash competition? Like the year before this last year when they were 3-0, right? And everyone's like, they're going to win the Super Bowl. They're back. This offense is humming. It's going to be the greatest of all time. They beat the Giants, the Dolphins, and maybe Washington. Yeah. And then they played the Saints with Teddy Bridgewater and got punched in the fucking mouth. And it was downhill from there because I don't know. I still, I guess this is my most amazing feat as a fan. I still don't know where I am on Dak, and that scares me.
I think that's just who he is. I've always felt that way. It's like how I feel watching Tobias Harris every night. Dak Prescott is just a more marketable Tobias Harris. That's all that it is.
You see, he's the amount of deals that he gets too, just being the Cowboys quarterback. Like he has the sleep number commercials. He's already has like commercials about him getting hurt. Like he's on the sleep number bed and they're like, how are you recovering, Dak? And he's like, my recovery's going great because I sleep on a sleep number. It's like, what the fuck, man?
How'd you pump that out so fast? It just happened.
And we're in COVID.
Season barely ended. Yeah. How did you get time to shoot that commercial? He does Gillette, I think. He does that the one yogurt,
Oikos.
I think.
Yeah,
Oikos.
Yeah, he took over for Cam on that after Cam.
For Cam, yeah. Hey, how about that kid who is trash talking Cam is actually local to Philly? How about that? How wild
is he really?
That? Yeah, right outside, kind of near where I work.
And he had to
What a wild, like, small world situation.
Mm-hmm. We should get him on the pod.
We should do that. Him and Cam. Together. Just us 4 cutting it up, talking about the good old days.
Why not? Who says no?
Who says no? Yeah, not me.
Not me. But my biggest thing for this offseason, and this can transition us into the next thing we wanted to do, is how they're going to approach this offseason in total, because the Cowboys have a ton of free agents. They need to rebuild multiple positions. So what positions are they going to put most of their resources towards, whether that be free agency, whether that be the draft, or both? Because just like the Eagles, the Cowboys, they're not in. If they let Dak walk, and let's say Ben DiNucci's the quarterback next year, or they draft the late quarterback, then they're saying we're in quote unquote rebuild mode as well. Even though this offense is set up to win a Super Bowl, defense just is not ready. But if they sign or tag Dak, that's saying our window's still open to me. So to me, I need to know where else they're going to be rebuilding. So you and I talked about going through our top 3 positions you most want our teams to address this offseason. That can be through free agency, through the draft, or through trades. So let's go through that now. So okay. I'm going to go 3-1. So,
me too.
Important. All right. Let's bring producer Vince in for this one too.
All right. There he is.
Do
you have 3 as well, Vince?
I do have 3.
All right. There we go.
We'll go in our normal triangle. Aidan can start. We'll go 3-1 of the position groups, and this kind of will kick off our postseason, off-season draft, free agency coverage of where we want the Eagles and the Cowboys to position themselves.
And we kind of did last week too with talking about who we want in the draft. But yeah, this takes it one step further. Not just who we want the top 10 pick, but just positions overall, which I think is a good way to look at it, because it's more than just a top 10 pick here. There's a lot of holes to fill on both of these teams.
Yep.
All right, so I'll start off our triangle here. At 3, I have linebacker. It's one of those positions. Alex Singleton definitely proved himself this year, but aside from him, I don't think that they are going to have any other startable linebacker on the team unless Sean Bradley or Davion Taylor takes the next step. So they don't have to take Micah Parsons. I'd love if they did, but they literally have to have a linebacker. They don't have any left on the roster.
Hashtag Team Micah.
Team Micah forever.
I always do this, so I'm gonna do it because I always do. Honorable mention is going to be linebacker for me. I'm not going to talk about why, but Jalen Smith, Sean Lee's going to retire, and we don't know if Leighton Vander Esch can play football anymore. So honorable mention is linebacker. But 3 for me is offensive line. Everybody always says, Dallas Cowboys, they're known for their offensive line. That was 2016, people. We're now in 2021. Tyron Smith is getting older. You cannot rely on him for a full season anymore. Lyle Collins was hurt all last season, but he should be back. But that interior too, obviously you have Zach Martin, who is still a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber, but you don't fully know what you have at center yet with Biadasz or Biadasz, but Jerry can't pronounce his name, Biadasz. And then Connor Williams has kind of been a dud at guard. We saw what Connor McGovern did, former Penn State guy. He looked good, but they need depth, especially at the tackle position, to either be behind Tyron Smith or maybe take over for him if he's too hurt to play. So offensive line 3.
You were the first one to call that the offensive line was shaky. You've been saying it all year. So salute to you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Vince, you're up.
Number 3, I have I have 2. It's a wide receiver / tight end, but it's very specific, the / tight end. Just someone to catch footballs. We haven't anyone. We had
Kyle
1
Pitts.
year. Yeah, or we'd like 1.5 years of players that could catch footballs on this team, and I missed that.
And before that, it was like 2011, the first year of the Chip Kelly offense with DeSean and Jeremy Maclin. And then for like 7 years, we were like, oh, yeah, you're supposed to have people who, when you throw it, they're supposed to catch it. For some reason, we forgot about it. In the era of 7-on-7 football in the offseason, we somehow forgot about wide receiver.
I don't know how that's possible.
I know, which leads me into my number 2, wide receiver. It's been such a position of need for the Eagles for literally now going on a decade. One show I read off all of the names. We have not drafted a Pro Bowl wide receiver since Jeremy Maclin made it one time in 2009. Before that, we had DeSean in 2008. The most productive receiver since then that we drafted was Riley Cooper. That's all I have to say about the Eagles wide receiver position.
Moving on. Number 2 for me is defensive line. Rip apart the hot boys, throw them in the trash, bury them, never talk about them again. Tyrone Crawford is a free agent. He needs to retire. Aldon Smith is a free agent. Don't know if they're going to try and bring him back or not. Woods is a free agent, but he's restricted. They have Gallimore up the middle, who they drafted this year, who I really liked. Obviously, they have Tank Lawrence on the outside still, but I mean, the defensive line was so underwhelming this past year. Are they going to try and bring Gerald McCoy back on a 1-year deal? Maybe. Dontari Poe was a complete and utter failure. They need to stop with the low-level shitty free agents in day like 17 of free agency and go get some beef up the middle and get another pass rusher.
That was such like an intelligent, thoughtful answer. And here's my number 2.
Cheerleaders.
So I mentioned this last week, a position that I think the Eagles really need to address. We do not have enough guys named Jalen. Give me all the guys named Jalen. Give me so many of them every round. All guys named Jalen.
Is that a position?
It's
Jalen.
It is just the name group.
Yeah. There's 3 Jalen's that can go in the first round. Take them all. Trade up
Jalen
2
Waddle.
Get them. Yeah.
That would solve your problem. It would cover 3 and 2. A Jalen who can catch. There you go. 2 birds with 1 stone.
Maybe we can get some of the top guys to just change their name to Jay, like Jamar Chase.
Jalen Chase.
Yeah, Jalen Chase.
But none of them can spell it the same. That's important.
Jalen Pitts.
Yeah, Jamar Chase keeps his apostrophe in Jalen.
Mm-hmm.
That way everything's spelled differently for them.
And Micah it's Micah Jalen Parsons. He's not giving up
Micah J.
Yeah. Hey, that works.
Yeah.
Can I get that Micah J?
Micah J, baby. All right. To go to our number 1s. At 1, the position that the Eagles need the most is general manager. Because as long as this rat weasel is in the front office, none of these other positions matter because he's the one who drafts them and he can't do it. He's a rat. He's a weasel. He needs out of there. And none of the position groups are going to matter because he can't draft any of them.
I got nothing for that. You're right. You don't have any positions if your general manager is a joke.
Exactly.
Positions don't matter. All
it's
right,
like having a ship. Who cares? Who if the Titanic, how they in the movie how they're down at the bottom and they're scooping all the coal and stuff. None of those guys matter if you don't have a captain of the ship.
Mm-hmm. I'm the captain now. That's what you should do. You should just walk into his office.
Look, as he's peeling the Carson Wentz fat head off of his wall.
It's just a guy. It just says Jalen now.
Jalen, yeah.
Jalen Fathead. In words, just Jalen. Welcome to the Philadelphia Jalen's. All right, so number 1. It is in the words, and you could make the eagle look like turn it upside down with the head down, and it kind of looks like a J.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
The beak.
All
yeah.
right, our guys at Design Tree.
Yep. So number 1 for me, it's kind of 2 positions in one. It's all encompassing. It's the secondary. Secondary needs to be completely ripped apart and retooled. They have Xavier Woods, their safety, is a free agent this year. Jordan Lewis, cornerback's a free agent. Chidobe Awuzie is a free agent. So basically we have Anthony Brown and Trevon Diggs. And that's about it. And Donovan Wilson, who kind of emerged at safety, and the other safety, who I will not even say his name because he's like Lord Voldemort for me, and I don't remember his name because he's that bad. So they need to retool. I don't care if they draft Patrick Surtain, draft another guy, sign Richard Sherman. So I've heard signing Patrick Peterson to have him play safety. I'm okay with all these things. You need some veteran presence to go along with these young guys like Trevon Diggs, and if you're going to draft a guy. So secondary. I don't care if you take 3 fucking secondary players in the draft. Just do something.
All right, so I swear to God we did not talk about this beforehand, but I also have general manager at number 1. I swear to God we didn't mention this.
You guys are
really have it on my
today.
We are on the same wavelength, man.
But it's like not even really a joke when you're talking about things that need to be addressed with the draft. This dude can't draft.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to have him as your general manager, trade all the picks away. And I keep hearing about how he's supposed to be a magician with the cap. Okay, trade all the picks away, get me Russell Wilson, and figure out the cap. That's the only way Howie Roseman's redeemed in my mind.
How can you do a rebuild with a guy who can't draft? Like, that's just what's blowing my mind in terms of like why this hasn't been addressed yet. Oh my goodness!
And he's not on. What's the word I'm looking for?
On record.
Last draft, he ignored the scouts. It's documented.
Yes,
it's documented that he ignores scouts. So what the hell is he doing?
And it just off that point, I don't understand how you get into the war room and you're not all on the same page going up to making a pick.
Yep.
Again, like that, maybe it's not just him who needs to be addressed. Maybe we should make our number 1 the front office in general. Like, why are you getting into that draft room? And your coach and your scouts, your player personnel guy, your owner for some reason is deciding it, as if his job isn't to put the fucking solar panels on the top of the stadium. That's all you should be doing. And the GM, and they don't know between Justin Jefferson and Jalen Reagor who they're going to take while they're on the clock. Get him out. Number 1 position.
And nothing exhibits that more than the video of the Vikings front office from this past year when they were sitting in the room and on Zoom, just like us, talking like, all right, well, Justin Jefferson's going to be gone. Eagles are going to take him here. So we got to go with plan B. And everyone's in agreement. So like, all right, plan B, here he goes. And then they're like, ding, ding, ding. And not Justin Jefferson. They're like, what the fuck? Turn the card in. Not like they were just all together. They knew exact. And they're like, are you fucking kidding me?
They are literally laughing at us. Who's at pick 7 this year? It's either the Panthers or somebody or the Broncos. Let me look up the draft order. Either way, Jamar Chase is going to be on the board, and we're going to be taking some add a left field name, and whoever's at 7 is going to be like, thank God.
Lions.
Thank you, Philadelphia. Oh, the Lions.
It's the Lions. There you go.
Yeah.
What we talked about earlier. Why say Kenny Golladay when the Eagles will pass on Jamar Chase, and you can just end up with him, and there you go for Goff. You have Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith.
Can you imagine being Jamar Chase going from LSU and now you're going to Detroit?
No. No. Quite frankly, no.
That would be.
I know how he
miserable.
listens to this. I know how he's listening to this. Get rid of this year's first round pick. Get rid of the Colts conditional first round pick. Get rid of next year's first round pick. Get rid of Jalen Hurts. Bring in Russ and do your magic on the cap and make it work.
I don't think Russ is going anywhere.
I think the Hall would pull it off. Again, with the cap space thing, you're right. He's supposed to be this salary cap wizard, but with Russell's contract, he wouldn't be able to pull it off because they're $30 million over the cap right now, because they have a dead cap hit on this other quarterback.
Have Lane Johnson restructure his deal for the 97th time.
97th time. Just keep kicking the can down the road.
Cowboys do the same shit, man.
It makes sense when you're in a Super Bowl window. What saves you from that, again, is drafting well. You can keep kicking the can down the road on these salary things if you're filling those positions in, because eventually you're going to get to a point where the whole plan is if you keep kicking these contract negotiations, this extensions down the road and guarantee them less money up front, you're going to be able to have an out in the contract eventually. But they never do because they don't draft well. So they get anchored to these bad contracts.
Now that I put this in the universe, that trade, and make the trade, fix the cap, he's not going to do it with Russ. He's going to do it with Deshaun, and he's going to stink.
That would be hilarious. Let's do that then. Let's get into this. So speaking of very poorly run organizations, the Houston Texans are going to lose their franchise quarterback after 4 years, Deshaun Watson. So we want to play the game for TikTok. Top 3 destinations for where Deshaun will go. Maybe the Eagles will land on Vince's list.
They're
Could
not.
be.
I promise you, they're not on my list.
Okay, fair
And
enough.
TikTok disclaimers. I'm a Cowboys fan. My wife is an Eagles fan. That's why I have 2 banners. Continue.
Not going to put it in
Not
there.
going to make the cut.
I never will. I know.
All right, you guys want to go same order?
Yeah,
Yep.
let's do it. Triangle.
All right. At 3, I have the Patriots. I know our good friend Eddie says that they don't trade for quarterbacks, but all of a sudden now he thinks that they're getting Deshaun Watson.
Patriots, all 3.
But the Patriots, I think if they were going to trade for a quarterback, it would be Deshaun Watson.
3 for me is the Las Vegas Raiders. I just feel like this is something Mike Mayock and John Gruden would do. They love him. They can get rid of both their quarterbacks right now if they wanted to. Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota. Can't wait for Mariota to be the starting quarterback of the Eagles next year.
So I make the technical rules on these because I'm the one that writes the episode description. So we're doing teams that we want Deshaun to be on next year. So I'm going with the Texans just because I want to see the dumpster fire that's going to happen if he stays on that team.
Okay.
I
mean, realistically, he might be.
It's very possible.
It's possible. All right. At 2, I have the Carolina Panthers. They were in on Stafford. They called on Carson Wentz. I don't see why they wouldn't be in on Deshaun Watson as well. And I believe, according to reports, they are.
2 for me is the Washington football team. I think this just makes sense for them. They have the weapons on offense. Last week on Branded Radio, we had the Philly Godfather on. We asked him for a future for the NFL winning it. He gave us Washington football team. He said they're just a big quarterback away. He said he has a little bit of some knowledge. He didn't say who of a big name possibly going there. I don't know what other big name it would be rather than Deshaun. And he also hit on a 50-1 for Tampa Bay to win the Super Bowl before Tom Brady hit. So I listen to him. So I'm going to go Washington too.
There.
At 2, I have the Saints. I don't think they can pull it off with the cap, but I think it'd be real fun to watch them on that team.
I think that's fair.
They're
in a weird situation. They have a high
They
cap, but Drew Brees is like not there, but also is Taysom Hill a quarterback, and also is Jameis Winston like a starting quarterback. So they have like 3 quarterbacks kind of at the same time. They have 0, and they don't have cap space. So that's
Well, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. If you have 3 quarterbacks, how many quarterbacks do you have?
I thought about this before because there was a team that one time they were starting 4 different quarterbacks. So I think that means you have -2.
Okay.
Math.
Mm-hmm. That's how that math works. All right. And at 1, I have the Miami Dolphins. You just brought up Washington as a team that seems to be just one big quarterback away. I would say that the Dolphins are one big quarterback away. I don't know if Tua is that guy, but I think you could put Tua in a deal with pick 3 in the draft. All of a sudden, you have your starter for the next 10 years. So just give the Texans their pick back, give them Tua, and you get Deshaun Watson.
I love that. And I think we've talked about that before, and I would love to see him in Miami. But Miami didn't make my list. Coming in at number 1 for me, it's the Carolina Panthers. There are talks that their owner wants to make Carolina a football town and a staple in the NFL, and he is in love with Deshaun Watson and apparently is willing to give up almost anything and everything, including possibly Christian McCaffrey, which would make no sense. But I think he's willing to do it, and I would love to see Deshaun Watson playing for Matt Rule.
Who do you think Houston would trade McCaffrey away for?
You.
Like a 4th-round pick?
Yeah. What conditional compensatory pick in the 3rd round would Christian McCaffrey go for?
To Arizona.
Yeah. After they get rid of Kenyon Drake, yeah. Or like San Francisco. I feel like McCaffrey and a Shanahan offense would be wild.
God. Oh,
all right.
No.
Number 1, once again, Aidan and I are connected for absolutely no reason. I have the Dolphins as well. I think Deshaun in light blue looks crazy. Like, it's understated how important color jersey is to quarterbacks. Like, we talked before about how if Russ ended up in Vegas, how he would throw for 50 and rush for 70 in all black. I think Deshaun belongs in that powder blue or electric blue, whatever you want to call it. Teal. I think
it's like, yeah.
I think he would ball out in Miami.
You're right. He's a blue guy. I can see either whether it's the Carolina blue or the Miami blue, either way. And I believe
blue guy. He's like a electric blue guy.
Light blue guy. Light blue Gatorade's the best color.
Yeah. Cash it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Deshaun Watson, when he won the national championship, that was in Miami against Alabama.
I believe you're correct.
Mm-hmm. There you
See?
go. Bing, bang, boom.
Connecting dots.
Me and Vince have been on the same wavelength all freaking day, man.
Panthers didn't make my list, but I do think that's probably the most likely situation for him. I just think it's kind of boring.
Well,
That's what they're trying to not be boring anymore.
yeah, that's true.
And Teddy Bridgewater apparently unfollowed the Panthers on social media this week. It was a big headline on ESPN.
That is today's version of the British are coming during the Revolutionary War.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. He doesn't follow the Panthers on Instagram anymore.
Uh-oh.
But he just followed 17 big-ass models. Awesome.
I had the SB Nation report up of like likely trades. And you want me to read you some of them for Deshaun?
Sure.
So we mentioned a lot of them, but they have Houston trading to Minnesota. And then
God, that would kill Aiden if he was in purple.
so Houston gets
Terrible.
back. Houston gets back Kirk Cousins, Kyle Rudolph, Vikings 2021 third, fourth, and fifth, and their 2022 first and second. And Minnesota gets just Deshaun Watson.
I think Houston, like if you're a Houston fan and you've already lost Harden and you're going to lose Deshaun and you get stuck with Kirk Cousins, like I don't think you can't leave your team, but you should leave your team.
That would be terrible. Terrible for Deshaun.
That haul is insane too.
It is.
I mean, it is, but it isn't. You're giving up a quarterback in his prime.
Yeah.
And you're getting
and
Kyle Rudolph and Kirk Cousins, pretty much.
And then the only other thing on here was it's Miami, but the trade that's proposed is Tua, 2021 firsts, and their second in 2022 for just
That makes sense.
Boom,
Yeah.
done. I don't know why it already hasn't been done. All right. So those are the TikToks for this week. I think the one last thing that we have this week, I don't think we could do a show without bringing up this fantastic quote from Jerry Jones.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have anything else, but I think we need to at least visit this quote real quick to put a cap on the show.
All right, so this was actually in a ESPN article about DeMaurice Smith. I don't know where this was, but apparently Jerry Jones, in front of the owners, got up, took the floor, and said, "Look, my daddy grew up on a farm in southwest Missouri. Every so often in the spring, the wind would come from a different part of the country, and the moon would set a different way, and the owls would start fucking the chickens." Nobody knew where he was going with this story, and then Jerry continued, "The owls are fucking the chickens," Jones continued. "It makes no sense that they turn this down, but it's a great thing for us."
And that's our show.
Are they the owl or the chicken?
You can be whatever you want.
Vince, you can't be sober and decide if you're the owl or the chicken. I'll tell you that.
Well, let me tell you, the Eagles are the chickens. How about that?
We're the chickens with our heads cut off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you decide, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be the owl or the chicken.
Hey, you went to Temple. The Owls.
I did.
Good for you.
So that's an owl.
Yeah.
My wife also went to Temple. Does that mean I'm a chicken? Oh, shit.
That's
all right. So who do we have next week? Remind the people, Aiden.
So we have Jack Fritz on next week. He is the producer right now for the afternoon 2 to 6 show. John Marks and Ike Reese on 94.1 WIP, among many other things. So we'll have him on next week with more guests to come soon. Like we said, we are building a substantial list. So go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get it. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube because Vince has been doing some special effects with his YouTube videos that he's very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And the format looks great. And then again, follow the Birds vs. Boys pod at Birds vs. Boys pod. Twitter account because there has been a lot of interaction lately. So we've been ramping up all the content there with a lot more to come as we focus on what is the Super Bowl for us bloggers, mock draft season, and free agency.
Love it. Can't wait. We will be back next week. That was episode 47 of Birds vs. Boys, presented by Branded Sports and powered by the most delicious vodka you will ever taste, Stateside Vodka.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds vs. Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it. Yep.
Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there. There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm gonna drink bleach.
That
Be
it?
the team you promised me you were gonna be this year!
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.